If you haven't sketched a circle before, there's a trick that you can use, which is one of the reasons why we want to put a crate in before we draw the part that we're really going to draw. If you think about a circle, let me do some quick lines here to get my pen flowing. Light, okay. If you think about a circle inside of a square, the circle is going to touch the square at the center of each side. And then if you imagine that there is a light line that connects each of those corners, or each of those midpoints to the sides, as if they're a corner of a smaller square, sideways to the main one, the circle is also going to pass through a point halfway between that smaller square side and the corner. So halfway there, halfway here, halfway here, and halfway here. And then if I connect the dots with some rounded lines, I have pretty close to, depending on how well I drew my original square. If it's more rectangular, it'll be an oval, but if I was able to draw relatively close to a square, I have a square. And this technique works no matter what angle I have my square at. So if I turn it into what's actually a rhombus, but is in our eyes a square on a different plane, the same technique works. It doesn't matter which plane I choose, I can do the same thing. So for example, if I have the front of an object over here, let's draw in some lines for our object. This will be the top. I'm going to just sketch in some bits here so we can visualize where this object is. So this is the front of my object here on this plane. So if I put a midpoint in, and then I put a halfway point and a halfway point, I can even draw in my halfway guideline if I want. Sometimes it helps me to, whoops, that's not very even. Oh, I didn't get this line very even, that's why. This line should be over here. And then that should be down a little bit farther. That looks more accurate. Sometimes it helps to draw the actual lines in rather than just the points to see. So then if I put the midpoint between this imaginary line and that corner, halfway to that corner, and then I put the midpoint between this imaginary line and this corner, I can see that I'm going to have a much sharper turn here and a shallow curve here. I like to draw in the shallow curves first because I find them easier for my hand to pick out. And then put the sharp curves in second because they seem a little more difficult to my hand. You may have different results. And now I have the top half of today's object. And I can put in the back of the object, put in a midpoint back here, and then try to duplicate that curve and follow through and build the rest of it there. But that's the technique. Remember midpoints and then halfway between. So midpoints around the square and halfway between the midpoint connecting line and the corners. Those are your 8 points to draw a circle, and you can use those on any surface of what your crate is for your drawing.